This story has two paths, and only your choice decides the fate. Listen carefully and choose the revenge.
I never thought I'd be the kind of person who checks their credit score obsessively. But there I was at 2 in the morning, staring at my phone screen with my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it. The number glowing back at me made no sense. It had dropped 200 points in a single month. 200 points. I refreshed the page 3 times, hoping it was a glitch, some kind of system error, but the number stayed exactly the same. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped steel bands around my ribs and was slowly tightening them. I sat there in the dark of our bedroom, listening to Josh snore peacefully beside me, and I felt something cold settle into my stomach. Something was very, very wrong. The next morning, I called the credit bureau the moment they opened. I was still in my pajamas, standing in the kitchen with my coffee going cold on the counter. The representative, a woman named Sandra with a kind voice that made everything worse, walked me through the report line by line. There it was. A personal loan for $100,000 taken out 3 weeks ago in my name. The lending institution was First National Credit Union. The loan officer's name was listed as Robert Chen. I wrote everything down with a pen that kept slipping in my sweaty fingers. My handwriting looked like a stranger's. "Ma'am, are you still there?" Sandra asked. "I didn't take out this loan," I said. My voice sounded flat, mechanical. "I never applied for anything." "Then you need to file a fraud report immediately," she said. "Do you have any idea who might have access to your personal documents? Social security number, driver's license, bank statements." I looked at Josh across the kitchen. He was scrolling through his phone, eating cereal, completely relaxed. We'd been married for 6 years. He had access to everything. We kept our important documents in a filing cabinet in the home office, the one with the broken lock we'd never bothered to fix because we trusted each other, because we were supposed to be partners. "I'll figure it out," I told Sandra and ended the call. I didn't confront him right away. That's the part I'm not proud of, but I needed to be sure. I needed to understand what I was dealing with before I made any moves. So I smiled at Josh that morning, kissed him goodbye when he left for work, and then I went straight to the filing cabinet. My hands were steady now. The shock had burned away, leaving something harder behind. The folder with my documents was thinner than it should have been. My birth certificate was there, but my social security card was missing. So was the copy of my driver's license I kept for records. I pulled out my passport. There were smudges on the photo page, like someone had photocopied it recently. I held it up to the light and saw the faint impression of the scanner glass still visible on the laminate. I sat down at the desk and opened the laptop we shared. Josh wasn't careful about logging out of things. He never had been. I'd always thought it was because he trusted me, but now I wondered if it was just arrogance. I went through his email first, searching for anything related to First National Credit Union. Nothing. Then I checked his deleted folder. Still nothing. He'd been thorough about covering his tracks there. But Josh had always been lazy about his browser history. He cleared it maybe once every few months, usually when the computer started running slow. I found it in 17 minutes. A confirmation email he'd accessed through a web browser, not his email client, from a temporary account he'd set up. The loan had been approved 3 weeks ago. $100,000 deposited into an account I didn't recognize. The account number started with digits I didn't know, at a bank I'd never used. I took screenshots of everything, saved them to a thumb drive I kept in my purse, and cleared my own search history. Then I made lunch like it was any other Tuesday. Josh came home that evening in a good mood. He'd stopped at the liquor store and bought an expensive bottle of wine, the kind we usually only got for anniversaries. He was smiling, relaxed, and he pulled me into a hug that felt exactly like it always had. Warm, safe, familiar. I hugged him back and felt absolutely nothing. "Let's order in tonight," he said. "Thai food? Your choice." "Sure," I said. "That sounds nice." We ate on the couch and watched a movie I couldn't follow. Josh kept his arm around me the whole time. He was affectionate, attentive, everything a good husband should be. I laughed at the right moments and leaned into him when the characters on screen kissed. Inside, I was doing calculations. $100,000. Where had it gone? What was he planning? And how long had he been planning to do this to me? I started tracking his movements after that. Not obviously, not in a way he'd notice, but I paid attention. Josh worked in sales for a medical supply company, a job he'd had since before we met. His salary was decent, but not extraordinary. We lived comfortably, but not lavishly. We'd been saving for a house, putting away money every month into a joint account that I managed, because I was better with finances. That account had about $40,000 in it. Money I'd carefully accumulated over 5 years of budgeting and sacrifice. I'd given up things I wanted, delayed purchases, worked overtime at my job as a legal assistant to add extra to our savings. Josh contributed too, but not as much. He liked to spend money on things that made him happy in the moment. Golf clubs, expensive dinners, weekend trips with his friends. I'd never minded because I thought we were building something together. I thought we had the same goals. 3 days after I found the loan documents, Josh told me he was going to visit his brother in Phoenix for the weekend. His brother Derek, who I'd met maybe twice in 6 years, who Josh barely talked to except when he needed something. It was sudden, he said. Derek was going through a rough time and needed support. Josh would fly out Friday morning and be back Sunday night. He seemed apologetic about it, like he was inconveniencing me, but I could see the excitement underneath. He wanted to go. He was looking forward to it. Of course, I said. Family's important. Tell Derek I hope he's okay. You're the best, Josh said and kissed my forehead. I called in sick to work that Friday. As soon as Josh's Uber pulled away from the house, I went back to the laptop. I had the whole weekend to dig, and I was going to use every minute of it. I started with his bank accounts, the ones I knew about. Nothing unusual there. Then I tried to find the mystery account from the loan deposit. It took me 4 hours and a call to a friend from law school who now worked in financial fraud investigation, but I finally traced it. The account belonged to Josh, opened 2 months ago at a bank across town. He'd never mentioned it. The current balance was $73,000. $27,000 had already been spent. I felt sick. I made myself a cup of tea I didn't drink and kept searching. Credit card statements came next. Josh had 3 cards I knew about, all of them joint accounts, or ones I was listed as an authorized user on. But there was a 4th card, one I'd never seen, linked to an email address I didn't recognize. The statements were damning. Jewelry purchases, high-end restaurants I'd never been to, a hotel in the city, the expensive kind with rooftop bars and $1,000 a night suites. The charges went back 5 months, always on weekdays. Always when he told me he was working late or meeting clients. I should have cried. I should have felt something break inside me. But I didn't. I just felt cold and clear and absolutely certain about what I needed to do next. I called my friend Rachel. She was the only person I trusted completely. The only one who'd known me since before Josh, who'd seen me build my life from nothing. Rachel was a paralegal at a corporate law firm, sharp as a knife and loyal to the bone. She answered on the second ring. I need your help, I said. And I need you not to ask questions until I'm done explaining. I'm listening, Rachel said. I told her everything. The loan, the secret account, the credit card charges, the hotel visits. Rachel was quiet while I talked, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long moment more. What do you want to do? She finally asked. I want to destroy him, I said. The words came out calm, factual, like I was ordering coffee. I want him to lose everything. I want everyone to know what he did. And I want to make sure I'm protected. Okay, Rachel said. Then here's what we're going to do. Rachel came over that afternoon with her laptop and a file box full of legal documents. We sat at my kitchen table and built a case like we were preparing for trial. Rachel had connections I didn't, access to databases, and records that would have taken me weeks to navigate alone. We pulled Josh's credit report. He'd taken out 2 other loans in the past year. Smaller ones, both paid off quickly. We found the jewelry purchases traced back to a woman named Sienna Marsh, 26 years old, who worked as a receptionist at one of Josh's client companies. Her Instagram was public. There were photos of her wearing a bracelet I recognized from the credit card statement, a delicate gold thing with tiny diamonds. $1,200 in one photo, taken at the expensive hotel. I could see the edge of a man's hand on her shoulder. The watch was Josh's. I'd given it to him for our 4th anniversary. He's not even smart about it, Rachel said, shaking her head. He's sloppy, arrogant. He doesn't think I'd ever check, I said. He thinks I'm too trusting, too devoted. Then we use that, Rachel said. We let him think everything's fine until it's too late for him to do anything about it. We worked through the weekend. By Sunday night, I had copies of everything. Bank statements, credit reports, loan documents, screenshots of Sienna's social media, hotel receipts, restaurant charges. I had a timeline of the affair and a detailed accounting of every dollar Josh had stolen from me, because that's what it was. Theft. Identity fraud. He'd used my name, my credit, my trustworthiness to fund his affair and whatever else he was doing with that money. Rachel helped me file a fraud report with the credit bureau and the police. We documented everything with timestamps and case numbers. Then we did something else, something that made my hands shake again, but for a different reason. We planned the confrontation. Josh's company was having their annual awards dinner in 3 weeks. It was a big deal. The kind of event where everyone dressed up and the CEO gave speeches, and they handed out plaques to top performers. Josh had won Salesman of the Year twice. He loved that dinner. He loved the attention, the recognition, the way people congratulated him and treated him like he was important. He'd already told me to buy a new dress, something that would impress his colleagues. He wanted me to look good on his arm. That's where we do it, Rachel said. Public. Undeniable. In front of everyone he wants to impress. He'll never see it coming, I said. That's the point, Rachel said. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal. I had to smile at Josh, sleep next to him, listen to him talk about his day and his plans and his excitement about the awards dinner. He never mentioned Sienna. He never mentioned the loan. He acted like the husband I'd thought he was, and every moment of it felt like swallowing glass. But I didn't break. I didn't give anything away. I bought the dress he wanted, a deep blue thing that cost more than I wanted to spend, but that I knew would photograph well. I got my hair done. I practiced my speech in the mirror when Josh wasn't home, saying the words over and over until they felt smooth and natural and devastating. Rachel helped me coordinate with the police. The fraud case was active, and they were interested in making an arrest, but they agreed to wait until after the dinner. They wanted the public exposure too. It would send a message, they said. Identity theft was serious, even between spouses, especially between spouses. I also contacted a divorce attorney, a woman named Patricia Vance, who specialized in high-conflict cases. She was expensive, but Rachel knew her and vouched for her skill. Patricia listened to my story without interrupting, reviewed my documentation, and smiled. You've done excellent work, Patricia said. By the time we're done, he won't have anything left to take. Good, I said. The night of the awards dinner arrived. Josh was in a great mood, singing in the shower, trying on 3 different ties before settling on the blue one that matched my dress. He told me I looked beautiful. He held my hand in the car. He introduced me to his colleagues at the cocktail hour like I was something precious, something he was proud of. I smiled and made small talk and sipped champagne I couldn't taste. Rachel was there too, invited as my +1 under the guise of being an old friend who worked in the industry. She stayed close, a steady presence at my elbow. The dinner was held in a hotel ballroom, 200 people seated at round tables with white linens and centerpieces of roses. Josh was at the head table with the other award winners. I was seated nearby with the spouses and partners. The CEO gave a speech. They served the meal, some kind of chicken with roasted vegetables that I pushed around my plate. Then came the awards. Josh won Salesman of the Year again, his 3rd time. He walked up to the stage to applause, accepted his plaque, and gave a short speech about dedication and hard work and the support of his amazing wife. He looked right at me when he said it. People turned to smile at me. I smiled back. When Josh returned to his seat, the CEO asked if anyone else had any announcements or acknowledgments before they moved on to dessert. It was a formality, something they did every year. Usually no one said anything. I stood up. The room went quiet. People looked at me, curious, probably thinking I was going to say something sweet about Josh, some kind of tribute to match his public praise of me. Josh looked confused but pleased. Like this was a surprise he hadn't expected, but was happy to receive. I walked to the front of the room. My heels clicked on the hardwood floor. Someone handed me a microphone. I held it carefully, professionally, the way I'd practiced. "Good evening," I said. My voice was steady, clear, projected to every corner of the room. "My name is Claire Donovan, and I'm Josh Donovan's wife. I want to thank you all for being here tonight because you're about to be witnesses to something important." Josh's smile faltered. I saw him start to stand, but Rachel was already moving toward him, and two other people I'd coordinated with, friends of friends who understood what was happening, blocked his path subtly, trapping him at the table. 3 weeks ago, I discovered that my husband used my personal documents to fraudulently obtain a $100,000 loan in my name, I said. He did this without my knowledge or consent. He forged my signature. He stole my identity. And he used that money to fund an affair with a woman named Sienna Marsh, as well as other personal expenses that had nothing to do with our marriage or our shared financial goals. The room erupted in whispers. People turned to look at Josh. His face had gone white, then red. He was shaking his head, mouthing the word no, but no sound was coming out. "I have documentation of everything," I continued. I pulled a folder from my purse, the same folder Rachel and I had prepared, and held it up. Bank statements showing the fraudulent account. Credit card charges for jewelry, hotels, and restaurants I never visited. Screenshots of social media posts from his mistress wearing gifts purchased with stolen money. I filed a police report for identity theft and fraud. I filed for divorce. And I've contacted every single one of the creditors involved to ensure that Josh, not me, is held responsible for every penny of that debt. Josh finally found his voice. "Claire, stop," he said. It came out strangled, desperate. "You don't understand. Let me explain." "I understand perfectly," I said. I looked at him across the room, and I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. "You thought I was too trusting to check, too devoted to question you, too weak to fight back. You were wrong about all of it." He tried to stand again. This time he made it to his feet, but he was unsteady, swaying like the floor had tilted under him. "This is insane," he said, louder now, trying to regain control. "She's lying. She's having some kind of breakdown. I don't know what she's talking about." "Then explain this," I said. I nodded to Rachel, who'd moved to the AV booth. The projector screen behind me lit up. It showed a bank statement, Josh's name at the top, the mystery account with $73,000 in it. Then it switched to a credit card statement with charges highlighted in yellow. The jewelry store, the hotel, the restaurants. Then a photo from Sienna's Instagram, the one with the bracelet and Josh's watch visible in the frame. The room was completely silent now. People were staring at the screen, then at Josh, then back at the screen. I watched his face cycle through emotions. Denial, panic, anger. He looked at his boss, the CEO, who was sitting 3 seats away with an expression of absolute disgust. "Josh," the CEO said quietly, "I think you need to leave." "No," Josh said. "No, this is a misunderstanding. Claire, please. We can talk about this at home. Don't do this here." "I'm done talking," I said. "I'm done pretending. I'm done protecting you from the consequences of your choices." He started toward me then, pushing past the people blocking him, but hotel security was already moving in. Rachel had coordinated with them too. They intercepted Josh before he got halfway across the room, each taking an arm, and he struggled against them like a child throwing a tantrum. "You can't do this," he shouted at me. "That's my money. I earned it." "You stole it," I said. "And now everyone knows." They escorted him out of the ballroom. I could hear him yelling in the hallway, his voice getting fainter as they took him away. The room stayed silent for a long moment after he was gone. Then someone started clapping. It was one of the women from Josh's department, someone I'd met a few times at company events. She stood up while she clapped, and then others joined her. Not everyone. Some people looked uncomfortable, shocked, unsure how to react. But enough people clapped that it filled the room, and I stood there holding the microphone and feeling something crack open inside my chest. Not pain, relief. The kind of relief that comes after holding your breath for so long you've forgotten what it feels like to breathe normally. I handed the microphone back to the CEO. I'm sorry for disrupting your event, I said, but I needed witnesses. I needed people to know the truth. You have nothing to apologize for, he said. He looked shaken but resolute. We'll be conducting an internal investigation. If Josh used company resources or time for any of this, there will be consequences. Thank you, I said. Rachel drove me home that night. We didn't talk much. I was exhausted, wrung out, but also more awake than I'd felt in weeks. When we pulled into my driveway, I saw that Josh's car wasn't there. He'd probably gone to Sienna's place, or maybe a friend's. I didn't care. I went inside, locked the door, and sat on the couch in the dark for a long time. My phone buzzed constantly. Text messages from people who'd been at the dinner. Some supportive, some asking if I was okay. A few from Josh's friends, angry, accusing me of humiliating him. I blocked those numbers without reading past the first few words. Then there was a message from Patricia, my attorney. Well done, it said. We'll talk tomorrow about next steps. I slept that night for the first time in weeks without waking up at 2 in the morning to check my credit score. The fallout was immediate and thorough. Josh was fired from his job 3 days after the awards dinner. The company's investigation found that he'd used company time and resources to conduct his affair, including charging personal expenses to his corporate card and then falsifying expense reports. They threatened legal action if he didn't repay the money immediately. He couldn't. The $73,000 in his secret account was frozen as part of the fraud investigation. The police arrested him a week later. He spent a night in jail before his parents bailed him out, and the look on his face in the booking photo that made the local news was everything I'd hoped for. Hollow, defeated, small. Sienna broke up with him the day he was fired. I know because she sent me a message on social media, a long rambling apology about how she didn't know he was married, how he told her he was separated, how she felt terrible and wanted me to know she'd ended it. I didn't respond. I didn't need her apology. She was a symptom, not the disease. The divorce moved forward quickly. Patricia was as good as her reputation. She made sure that Josh was held responsible for the entire loan, that my credit was cleared, that I kept the house and the savings account and everything we'd built together. Josh tried to fight it at first, tried to claim that the loan had been for both of us, that I was exaggerating the affair, that I was vindictive and cruel. But the evidence was overwhelming. His own lawyer eventually advised him to settle. He signed the papers 3 months after the awards dinner. I didn't attend the final hearing. Patricia handled it for me. When she called to tell me it was done, I was at work, sitting at my desk, reviewing a contract for one of the senior partners. I thanked her, ended the call, and went back to work. It felt anticlimactic. It felt perfect. Josh's life continued to unravel in ways I only heard about secondhand. His parents, who'd always treated me with polite distance, apparently cut him off financially after they learned the full extent of what he'd done. His friends, the ones who'd gone on golf trips and expensive dinners with him, stopped returning his calls. He moved into a cheap apartment on the other side of town. He couldn't find work in sales anymore. The industry was small and word had spread. I heard from Rachel, who heard from someone else, that he was working retail, some kind of electronics store, making a fraction of what he used to earn. Every paycheck was garnished for the loan repayment. He'd be paying it off for years. I didn't feel sorry for him. I didn't feel anything for him at all. My own life changed too, but in different ways. The senior partner at my firm, a woman named Judith who'd always been kind but distant, called me into her office a month after the divorce was finalized. I thought I was in trouble, that maybe the drama had reflected poorly on the firm, but instead she offered me a promotion. Junior associate, a significant raise, my own cases to manage. You handled a difficult situation with remarkable composure and intelligence, Judith said. Those are qualities we value here. I think you're ready for more responsibility. I accepted. I moved into a new office with a window. I started taking on clients, building a reputation, using the skills I'd honed during my years as a legal assistant. I was good at it, better than I'd realized. People noticed. Rachel and I grew closer. She'd always been my friend, but after everything, she became something more. Family, the sister I'd never had. We had dinner every week, sometimes at my place, sometimes at hers. We talked about work and life and the future. She never once said, "I told you so." Even though she'd had reservations about Josh from the beginning, small doubts she'd kept to herself because she didn't want to interfere. I loved her for that restraint and for the fierce loyalty she'd shown when it mattered most. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Josh at a grocery store. It was random, unavoidable, one of those moments where you turn a corner and there they are. He looked terrible, thinner, older. His clothes didn't fit right, like he'd lost weight and hadn't bothered to buy new things. He saw me at the same moment I saw him. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he opened his mouth like he was going to say something, and I just walked past him. I didn't run. I didn't hurry. I just continued shopping like he wasn't there. When I glanced back from the end of the aisle, he was still standing in the same spot, staring after me. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my back porch. It was early summer, warm and clear, and I could hear crickets in the grass. I thought about the person I'd been a year ago, the woman who checked her credit score at 2 in the morning and felt her world collapse. I thought about the person I was now, the woman who'd stood in front of 200 people and told the truth without flinching. They were the same person, but also not. Something had changed. Something had hardened and clarified, like metal tempered in fire. I didn't regret what I'd done. Not for a second. Josh had made his choices, and I'd made mine. He'd thought I was weak, and I'd proven him wrong in the most public, devastating way possible. The cost had been high. The emotional toll. The months of pretending. The cold calculation required to plan and execute everything. But the alternative had been worse. The alternative had been letting him get away with it, absorbing the damage, carrying the weight of his betrayal in silence. I'd refused that path. I'd chosen something harder and infinitely more satisfying. Now, as I sit here with the full story laid out before you, you followed every step that led to this moment. You've seen the betrayal, the planning, the confrontation, and the immediate aftermath. But the story doesn't end in just one way. There are two paths forward from here. Two different futures that could unfold depending on what justice means to you. You have to decide what happens next. Two choices appear before you. If you want me to follow the path where Josh faces complete financial and legal ruin, where the system holds him accountable and I find peace in his total collapse, choose the first ending. If you want to see what happens if Josh avoids legal consequences but suffers complete psychological and social destruction, where he loses everything that matters to him but remains free, choose the second ending. Your choice will decide how this story ends.